plans to meet again before hiring a city law director. And in sports, one Ohio men's basketball player is being recognized for his performances last week. Newswatch starts right now. Good evening, I'm Reese Thompson. Welcome to Newswatch. Athens City Council is set to discuss a resolution condemning the violence in Gaza. Joining us with more from outside City Hall is Newswatch reporter Jack Green.
Reese, residents packed City Hall behind me last week to ask City Council to consider a resolution condemning the violence in Gaza. And tonight, Athens City Council will get to do just that. The resolution urges state and federal officials to call for an immediate ceasefire and the end to U.S. aid to the war. The draft resolution was submitted by Councilmember Michael Wood last Tuesday. Then on Wednesday, the assistant law director issued an opinion on the draft, saying adopting such a resolution is inappropriate. It says the council has never adopted such a resolution and says by nature, resolutions are intended only for issues in local government. The opinion also reads, if passed, it would open the door to similar resolutions with tenuous connections to the daily affairs of local government.
Sounds like another busy night in council. Jack, what else are they going to discuss at tonight's meeting?
Now, Reese, there are three other issues up at tonight's meeting, but one to look out for is an appropriation to the city's medical fund. The transfer is of $300,000 to the city's medical fund. Now, I've spoken with Committee Chair Jeff Reisner, who says the city is having some issues paying for medical expenses that it's occurred over the last year. He says the city could run the risk of decreasing funds or for funds for other things, such as street repairs in the city. Reporting for Newswatch live outside of City Hall, I'm Jack Green.
Thanks, Jack. Nelsonville City Council is having another meeting tonight. This past week, the council has met 3 times, and tonight will make 4. In Saturday's special meeting, the council attempted to pass an ordinance as an emergency to hire Matthew Bottolini as the city's law director. There were not enough votes for the ordinance to pass as an emergency, so its second reading will take place at tonight's meeting. However, there is also an ordinance on the table to appoint Jonathan Robe as a city attorney. The former executives of First Energy were issued arrest warrants but did not surrender to the authorities. Charles Jones and Michael Dowling were indicted for being involved in the largest corruption in state history. The former CEOs have criminal charges against them for the scandals surrounding House Bill 6, a scheme costing $60 million in bribes to pass the bill and keep it in place. Jones and Dowling, along with former Public Utilities Commission of Ohio Chair Sam Randazzo, all have warrants out for their arrest.
Good evening. I hope everyone had a great weekend to watch some football in what, in my opinion, is the best weather to watch football, and that is chilly and cloudy. Fortunately, today, skies have cleared up quite a bit, although the temperatures are still pretty close to what we saw this weekend. Right now, we're at about 46 degrees, so things are dropping as we go into these nighttime hours. Now, we're also going to see a shift in our sky conditions as the system down to the south of us begins to develop, although this is not the system we're really focusing on. We're really going to look at this little pink-blue kind of mess going down here near Arkansas and Missouri, as that will come up into Ohio, and that has resulted in a winter weather advisory being issued for the southern part of the state near Scioto Valley and down into Kentucky. Now, with this winter weather advisory, that will be in effect from 9 p.m. tonight until 9 a.m. Tuesday morning, and that's going to consist of about an inch of wintry precipitation consisting of rain, possible ice, and snow. So on your morning commute tomorrow, make sure to drive extra slow in case there are any slick spots on the road. But for tonight, we're going to see that overnight low of 31 degrees with that 90% of rain or snow starting in Athens around 10 p.m. So a little later than what is predicted of the western side of the state. And since we're so close to that freezing temperature of 32 degrees for water, that's what's going to create some really weird conditions outside of where you have some spots that are slick versus some spots that are just wet precipitation. Be sure to stay tuned for my full forecast. We're going to look into how the system is forming and what it means for the amount of rain we're going to get down here in Southeast Ohio. Back to Reese.
Sounds good. Thanks, Emily. 10 teams of Ohio University students have been working on a project as part of the Students Spaceflight Experiments program. Reporter Dylan Richardson has more on the winning experiment.
Thanks, Reese. So the team of students at Ohio University have been hard at work creating experiments, and now one lucky group is getting the chance to test theirs out a little far from home. Looking into a microscope while aiming for the stars.
It feels almost surreal.
Nathan Smith says this is the chance of a lifetime.
We're sending something to space. That's such a big deal.
Smith and his team beat 9 other teams to secure a spot for their experiment aboard the International Space Station. It's part of the Student Spaceflight Experiments program. Victoria Swiler, another member on the team, says their experiment
Studying the effect of this bacteria on plants in spaceflight could help us look at potential ways to increase plant growth in space.
Swiler says working together made this experience even better.
I feel like we all learned a lot from each other. Our graduate student facilitator was really great in teaching us everything from experiment design to writing the proposal.
But what made this out-of-this-world dream a reality, Smith says it's courage.
Be open to it. If you don't take that first step and sign up for the project, it's going to get you nowhere. That, just being creative, being a good team player, being able to do research effectively is a really big part.
This semester, the students will continue to refine their project to prepare for a possible September launch date. Reese, back to you.
Coming up, 2 Israeli-Argentinian hostages from southern Gaza were rescued overnight. And victims of the Texas church shooting speak out.
Weather is going to be changing in the next couple of hours with cooler weather on the way as well as some rain. Be sure to stay tuned to Newswatch to find out how this will impact you.
The Black preaching tradition is deeply connected to gospel music. Our singers preach and our preachers sing.
God, we ask that you reinvigorate somebody.
You feel it deep down in your soul. It makes you want to shout, it makes you want to sing.
That's beautiful.
Tonight at 9 on WOUB.
My relationship with Garth, oh my goodness.
We just didn't see people like Garth in the world that I came from.
We just became one of the most acclaimed dance tickets to get around the world.
Once COVID hit and we lost what?
We lost the company.
The company is in a rebuilding process now.
There's a very clear path, and Garth Pagan Dance is going there.
Thursday at 10 on WOUB.
I want you to fasten your seatbelt.
You cannot chart your own path if you don't know where you came from. For me, it was an opportunity to face my own truth.
This is our community. We don't want our history to stop.
Palm Springs grown and we want to be part of the community.
You feel it deep down in your soul.
This is stuff that we need in order to feel whole.
I wouldn't be here without gospel.
All this and more, only on PBS.
For more than 70 years, WOUB Public Media has been the place where people in our region turn to learn how stories of the past ignite the imagination of the future. It's where information, entertainment, and education work together to inform, enlighten, and inspire generations. It's the place where the community gathers to hear and see our world in new and innovative ways. WOUB, the public media you trust that's worthy of your support.
After a covert operation, Israel says it rescued 2 Israeli-Argentinian hostages from southern Gaza. The 2 men had been held hostage for 128 days. While the operation will be celebrated in Israel, significant loss of life was reported in Gaza after Israeli forces launched overnight strikes. Ivan Rodriguez reports on the latest.
A successful operation for Israel in the southern Gaza city of Rafah, with the latest rescue of 2 hostages.
They had been held in an apartment block inside Gaza, where Hamas had been trying to use neighboring areas as human shields. They are home. That's 2 more home and another 134 to go.
60-year-old Fernando Simon Marman and 70-year-old Louis Har spent more than 4 months in captivity. now reunited with their families.
Now they are a little thin, a little different.
They lost some weight.
They lost a little weight. They were in inhuman situation.
The operation to rescue the hostages also resulted in the deaths of more than 100 people, according to the Palestinian Red Crescent Society, after the Israeli Air Force launched airstrikes for aerial cover. There is a growing concern over the operation in Rafah, now home to more than half of Gaza's population, with many displaced from other parts of Gaza and few places left to run.
There is nothing left. They destroyed these areas, as you can see yourself.
In Washington today, a meeting between President Biden and the King of Jordan, coming at a critical time in the war. Both leaders are expected to discuss efforts to support the Palestinian people and a vision for peace. I'm Ivan Rodriguez reporting.
Tensions are rising between President Joe Biden and his Israeli counterpart. Biden claims Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is obstructing efforts to alleviate the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Biden has not yet criticized Netanyahu in public, but some officials are wondering how long that is going to last. Privately, Biden has expressed his opinions about Netanyahu not following through on recommendations to de-escalate military tactics. In recent days, the tension between the U.S. and Israeli government have intensified as Israel prepares for a ground incursion in Rafah. We're learning more about what happened inside a Texas church where a shooting took place. A woman armed with an assault rifle opened fire before an afternoon service yesterday. In the moments that followed, the suspect was killed, but others were injured, including a child who remains in critical condition. Laura Geary has the latest.
I started screaming, there's a shooter, there's a shooter.
Terrifying moments described by those who were inside celebrity pastor Joel Osteen's Lakewood Church in Houston, Texas, Sunday.
We went scared and then we went to the chairs to try to protect us.
My mom and me were so worried.
9-year-old Ethan Rodriguez hid in a bathroom with his dance class as gunshots rang out just ahead of the afternoon Spanish service.
2024.
Police say a woman in her 30s, armed with a weapon and accompanied by a 7-year-old child, opened fire just inside the entrance.
She had a long gun, and it could have been a lot worse. But they stepped up and they did their job.
They are two off-duty law enforcement officers who were working security at the church. The city's police chief says they shot and killed the suspect. The 7-year-old and a male bystander were injured by gunfire. Houston's police chief says they're still investigating who fired the bullets that hit them. A federal law enforcement source tells CNN the woman's gun, an AR-15, had the word Palestine written on it.
It's way too early to determine a motive for the shooter's actions. Indications that mental health played a role in an early investigation.
Pastor Joel Osteen told reporters the outcome could have been much more tragic had the church not been between services. And for now, his focus is on moving his congregation forward.
We're going to keep going strong and just, doing what God's called us to do, lift people up and give hope to the world.
I'm Laura Aguirre reporting.
Well, Groundhog Phil did say we are going to have an early spring, and that seems to be true so far. Joining me now is Newswatch forecaster Emily Dietz. Now, Emily, this past week has been absolutely beautiful. I've been enjoying my time outside. Are we going to be seeing these temperatures throughout the week?
Yeah, Reese, so I've definitely been enjoying that warm weather too, going on walks and everything just as everybody else has been. But temperatures will be cooling down ever so slightly. Definitely won't be getting back into the 30s or the single digits that we saw that 1 week in January. But things will be shifting into the 40s. And in fact, right now we're getting a little taste of that with it being about 46 degrees outside with some really nice clear skies outside. But that will be shifting over the next couple of hours. And in fact, we have a winter weather advisory issued for the southwest part of the state of Ohio down into Kentucky as well. And that is in effect from 9 p.m. tonight till 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. And that'll be a bit of a wintry mix going on with snow, a little bit of ice, and possible rain as well. But for what that means for us over here in the eastern parts of the state is we'll be seeing a lot more rain and possible snow flurries. But what is starting all of this weather? Well, we have a low pressure system that's been developing down here in the south, as well as this high pressure, which is helping to feed in a lot of this warm air and moisture in from the Gulf. So as this high pressure starts to circulate around, it pulls in this warm air and moisture, which is really great fuel for starting these rain sort of chunks of area. as you could say. And we also have a bit of precipitation, as you can see, these clouds and warm moist air coming in from the Pacific as well. So a lot of this is really being fueled up quite nicely to set us up for a decent amount of rain. But what we're going to be focusing on is this little pink area down here in the central Great Plains area, because a lot of this rain that we're seeing along the east coast will stay over to the east. But this little pink area is going to be the thing that comes right up into Ohio tonight. And that blue area right there, that's where we're going to see that snow sort of wintry mix. That's really going to stay to the southern part of the state and not really impact the central part of the state. However, we may be seeing some rain with that area. But tonight we'll be seeing that 31-degree low and a 90% chance of rain or snow. So really just depending on where you are in the state. And for us over here in Athens, we'll be seeing that start around 10 p.m. tonight and carrying on through those morning hours. And taking a look at our forecast, you can see that rain and that snow sort of moving right across southeast and southwest part of Ohio, just really dumping some rain. And it'll be cooler in this sort of pocket down here in southeast Ohio. That's where we might see those snowy conditions outside. As far as tomorrow goes, we'll see partly sunny skies, and as that system continues to move over towards the east, that's where that sun will be poking out. We'll see a high of about 45 degrees, so in the 40s, but definitely not as warm as we all want it to be. But it is still February. We have plenty of time to warm up, and here's a good look at that system sort of moving on towards the east. But now we're focusing on what's coming in from the northwest. So we have a cold front that's been developing for a while. That's going to be pushing down into Ohio, bringing in some cool weather behind it, and as well as a high pressure system. So as this cool weather comes in, that'll drop our temperatures a little bit, but right behind that we have high pressure, so skies will clear. But then we have a warm front starting to develop behind that way over here in the central Great Plains, which will cause a bit of a stir as far as our weather goes the next couple of days. So we have Wednesday, mostly sunny skies, again that 45-degree temperature, and then that warm front's going to move through, picking things up for Thursday. And as that cold front sweeps in behind it, that's what's going to cause that 60% chance of showers on Thursday. And that cold front will also be bringing cooler weather, which is why we see that drop down later this week and into the weekend. So our overnight conditions will definitely be chilly into the 20s, but our daytime conditions will be very February-like, very in the 40s, touch of the 50s, but for the most part, fairly stable this week. Back over to Reese.
Thanks, Emily. It's not a new danger, but despite efforts to raise awareness about the risk of TV and furniture tipping over, thousands of children are still sent to the emergency room each year. In today's Health Minute, Mandy Gaither takes a look at the research and explains how to help keep your loved ones safe.
All your jammies. It can happen in an instant. Curious children climbing on furniture with dangerous consequences.
When you have something that does heavy falling on a child, it can result in death.
In a new report, the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission says nearly 18,000 people are hurt in tip-over incidents every year.
Children are impacted more than anybody else. So over the last 10 years, there have been over 200 deaths associated with tip-overs.
Of those deaths, the report says nearly half involved a television, and more than half of those involved children between 1 and 3 years old. But others are at risk too. The research shows more adults ages 60 and above are also being sent to the emergency room after furniture tipped over. All clothing storage furniture manufactured after September 1st, 2023 has to meet updated safety measures laid out by the CPSC. But no matter when your furniture was made, the agency says it should be anchored to the wall.
You go to the hardware store and for less than $20, you can go back and anchor it into the wall in about 20 minutes.
The website anchorit.gov has step-by-step instructions and videos on how to secure furniture to help prevent a tragedy. For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither. All your jammies. It can happen in an...
Next in sports, one Ohio men's basketball player has been recognized following his performances last week. Find out more when Newswatch returns. And for the latest from Newswatch, follow us on Instagram, X formerly Twitter, and YouTube.
Sometimes we have to look that monster right in the face. Show we're not afraid of it anymore.
Love is the best thing we have. It's the only thing we have.
No more secrets. I just want to be right here in this moment with you.
I trust nothing untoward has occurred.
Bright things ahead, darling. Brightness and joy.
Those that underestimate us should do so at their own peril.
And if they do, so bloody what?
Open your eyes.
Action!
Best episode ever.
So I want to know where it all came from.
On Finding Your Roots, Danielle Brooks
That blew my mind.
and Dionne Warwick.
I come from a singing family.
From bondage to battle.
What do you make of him? It changes the game for my family.
And freedom gained at a cost.
Did you know you had such deep roots there?
No, it was never, ever mentioned or talked about.
Finding Your Roots.
Tuesday at 8 on WOUB.
Next time on Antiques Roadshow, when it comes to value, the details make all the difference.
If you look at Luke, that's a double telescoping lightsaber. That's extremely rare, and most people would never even notice it.
One of the most important people of the 20th century, Jackie Robinson. This is considered his rookie card.
Oh, wow.
You have 3 of them.
Don't miss Antiques Roadshow from Old Sturbridge Village in Massachusetts.
Tonight at 8 on WOUB.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Maria Manessi with sports. It's hard to believe, but tournament play begins tonight with the sectional semifinals for high school girls basketball, and Hardwood Heroes has you covered with action around the TVC. Starting with Division II Region 7, 15 seed Vinton County will host 18 seed Washington Courthouse. The Vikings hold a 9-13 record going into tonight's game and have shown improvements over the last few weeks. In Division III, Region 11, 24 seed Meigs will take on 25 seed Ironton. The Fighting Tigers hold a 5-17 record and have dropped their previous 2 games. As for the Marauders, they hold a 6-16 record. They have lost 6 straight and look to get back on track tonight. Lastly, in Division IV, Region 15, 16 seed Eastern looks for a win over 17 seed Scioto Valley East. The Eagles struggled throughout the regular season as their lone victory came in a non-conference game against Bern Union on January 6th. As for Sciotaville East, they had just 3 wins during the season. Sticking to the hardwood, but on the college level, Ohio men's basketball guard Jalen Hunter has been named MACco Player of the Week following his performances last week. Hunter averaged 26 points and 4.5 rebounds per game as the Bobcats went 1-1 last week. Hunter scored a career-high 32 points in Ohio's 84-79 overtime victory against Ball State last Tuesday. As for Saturday against Arkansas State, the guard led the Bobcats scoring with 20 points while also grabbing 4 rebounds. Despite Hunter being one of 5 scores in double figures for Ohio on Saturday, it struggled to stop Arkansas State on the road as part of the MAC Sunbelt Challenge. The Red Wolves shot 64% from the field and 50% from 3. Arkansas State also scored 52 points in the paint and had 5 scores in double figures as Ohio fell short 100-87. As for Ohio women's basketball, it also played in the MAC Sunbelt Challenge as it hosted Texas State. Lele Fantroy led the Bobcats with a career-high 24 points. Jana McClure played her first game in the Convo since January 3rd and followed behind Fantroy with 17 points and 4 rebounds. Texas State proved to be too much for Ohio in the end as it dropped its 4th consecutive game 81-70. Switching to the ice, Ohio hosted Liberty for a top 10 matchup at Bird Arena over the weekend. After dropping Friday's game to the Flames 4-3, Ohio looked to bounce back on Saturday. It was another back and forth battle that went down to the wire and then some. Jack Glenn scored for Ohio with just under 4 minutes remaining in the 3rd period, but Liberty responded with a goal of its own, taking the game to overtime where the Bobcats fell short 4-3. Ohio returns to Bird Arena on Friday for a series with Drexel. I'm Maria Manessi, and that's it for sports. Back to you, Reese.
Thanks, Maria. Still ahead, how people around the world are getting ready to celebrate Mardi Gras. But first, here's a look at what's coming up tonight on your public television station.
Look at this lineup.
That is huge.
I had no idea what it was.
Moments like this actually feels like magic.
The story of this fossil is one of fascinating scientific discoveries.
The Eiffel Tower is a symbol of our contemporary world.
I feel really excited.
Wednesday on WOUB.
WOUB is recognizing members of our Cornerstone Society. The Cornerstone Society is a group that wants to ensure the future of public media in our region. It includes people across our area who value news, entertainment, and cultural programming, as well as the educational services WOUB provides. Also included are graduates of Ohio University who took part in the WOUB Student Professional Development Program. Thanks to the Cornerstone Society for their generous support. To learn how you can be involved, email woub@woub.org.
We're creating a mixed income community. Being low income shouldn't bar you from experiencing a higher quality of life.
I have grown up in a journalism environment where I was frequently the only woman in the room.
At some point, a row of trees went in.
I feel segregated. They were planted to hide this community.
We live in a virtual reality world. Everybody everywhere knows what's going on. So people are aware that there's a problem here.
I wanted her story told, and I felt good that I was the one that was able to tell it.
I know how to do other things to survive.
Rise up and say, you know what? Enough is enough.
Finally tonight, many people around the world are getting ready to party. Tomorrow is Mardi Gras, which is French for Fat Tuesday. It's a day to indulge and go crazy before the restrictions of Lent begin. In the U.S., massive celebrations with parades, street parties, mass balls, and other events are held in New Orleans and Mobile, Alabama. They're also held internationally in places like Venice and Rio de Janeiro. Fat Tuesday always lands 47 days before Easter and a day before Ash Wednesday. I remember being in New Orleans many, many years ago for the OSU Rose Bowl, and my favorite thing was getting a big blue sequin mask, and I know you see them everywhere. Yes.
Wow, that sounds amazing. I always like for Fat Tuesday, my family and I, when we were kids, would always make pancakes and have breakfast for dinner. And that's what I'm doing with my roommates tomorrow.
Oh, so exciting.
Breakfast casserole. Yeah, what do you like about Mardi Gras?
Yeah, I just love the colors and celebrations. It just seems like so much fun.
Yeah, well, for people who are ready to go out and party tomorrow, what's the weather going to look like, Emily?
For sure. Well, tonight we'll start off. It'll be a bit chillier outside, about 31 for our overnight low, and 90% chance of rain or snow. And for Athens, that's going to be starting around 10 p.m., carrying overnight into the early morning hours. And if you're in the western part of the state, that'll be starting around 9 p.m. And we see that rain or snow because we're close to that freezing level of water, and that means that when that precipitation falls, it may fall as snow, ice, or even rain, and it's just going to fluctuate where you are, what your outside temperature is, what you will be seeing. But we do have a winter weather advisory down near Southwest Ohio, near Scioto Valley, down into Kentucky as well, and that will be in effect from 9 p.m. tonight till 9 a.m. tomorrow morning, and we are looking at about an inch of precipitation, wintry mix, including that snow, ice, and rain falling within those areas. Now that is largely stemming from this large low pressure system that's down south, but we're mainly looking at the system that's near Arkansas and Missouri because that's what's going to be sweeping up into Ohio. But taking a look at near the Great Plains region, we do have a cold front and a high pressure system that will be moving in a couple of hours in the late parts of Tuesday, leaving us with a 45-degree high and a chilly start to the week after a warm pressure system starts on Thursday.
And that does it for our broadcast this evening. Thanks for watching. For Maria Manessi and Emily Dietz, I'm Reese Thompson. Stay tuned for the PBS NewsHour coming up next. And remember, you can find the latest news anytime at woub.org or follow us on social media.